Yo, what's going on, man?
What up, dog?
All right, we're gonna old school noise brigade it here, where we just kind of cover the bases of everything. Look, we haven't been recording a whole lot lately. I've got one that's kind of in the can, being prepped for. We recorded last week, and things have just been busy. You've got a lot going on. I've got a lot going on. Rich, I assume, has a lot going on. Although we exchange text messages, but that's about as far as we get anymore.
Yeah,
But well, look, we're just all busy. That's just how life is.
yeah. Hopefully, after my move, things will settle down, and we can kind of get back on the regular schedule.
Yeah, we'll have to be as we get into the summer, we'll be creative. We're talking, maybe about getting a couple different people on, so you're not just having to listen to us jaw jack all the time. But we've been doing this for a long time. We've had different guests over the years. We've had recurring guests over the years. Maybe cool to get a fresh voice on and
Yeah,
just
I'd
fresh
like to
looks
get
and
Johnny Bench back on at some point.
yeah, I miss him. You
Yeah,
know, um,
good old Johnny Bench. I
Johnny.
heard last time I heard he overdosed on Blue Emu,
Oh no.
and so I mean, prayers up for Johnny Bench. He's doing okay, but man, that Blue Emu really he thought it was something else blue, and he put it somewhere it's not supposed to go.
Oh, gotcha.
And so, no pun intended, he's been on the bench for a little bit. Um, so he's been out of action, but he'll be back. He'll be back. I'll willing to bet.
Sorry. I'm gonna think about that all night now.
That was bad, and I should feel bad, but I don't. I
No,
don't
you
feel
shouldn't.
bad at all.
That was good.
Yeah.
All
Um, let's
right.
let's talk about, man. We got to talk about the hottest ticket in town. Not the Sixers, because they're currently down 0-2 in the first round of the NBA playoffs. We're talking, of course, about your Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah. As we record this, they had rattled off 7 in a row. Unfortunately, they dropped tonight, but it happens. We can't win every game. Baseball's a long season. And we say that with, look, the last couple of games here, Mr. One Bryce Harper is a father once again.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And so he's been placed on the paternity list. But we can talk about the offense here and there. To me, it's still not together. Trey's been on fire. Brandon Marsh has been just incredible. In fact, I believe Marsh hit cleanup here recently.
Dude, he is really, what a trade that ended up being.
Um, Old Mr. One Scooby Doo himself, Nick Castellanos, is having his off year, which is historical for his career. But we'll see. Schwarber's getting on base more with some hits rather than just hitting a long ball.
He's 1-for-1 the other night and had like a great stat line.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. But, Harper a little slow. It was crazy. Johan Rojas actually hitting the ball, which we talked about that in the offseason. And, man, I was skeptical. Spring training hit terrible. First week and 10 days of the season, it's like, I don't know. I was willing to bench him, throw Marsh back in center, run out Pache a little bit more.
Hey, was that an Arnold Schwarzenegger noise? That
Could have been.
Hey,
Now, what do you think so far offensively?
they've got a lot of work to do, but they're getting help from people that you wouldn't necessarily expect. For like you said, Marsh is on a fucking tear. The dude is on a heater big time, and you can't overlook that. He's playing lights out. You've got Harper, when he's been in the lineup, he started off real slow, but he started picking it up. Schwarbs is killing it. Like you said, I mean, there's not much to say that you haven't already said. However, I want to point out somebody is tearing the cover off the ball down in AAA that might be able to help out the big team.
All right, who you got here? Who you got? Breaking news, right? No, we're not breaking, but maybe
Scott
for us.
Kingery.
Tell you what, last year in the organization, contractually, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
What a story that would be for somebody that signed, not a big deal, but it was an extended deal with a lot of money for a guy that was unproven. I always associated his deal with like the early deal that was made with Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals. And there's been others within the last 10, 15 years where these guys get a handful of major league at bats. And then it's like, oh, we know this guy's going to be a stud. Scott Kingery was supposed to be the next Chase Utley. That was unfortunately not in the cards. And he has basically just bounced around a bit, back and forth between the big club and the minors over the last few years, primarily spending more time in the minors. He had, from what I recall anyway, a pretty decent spring. And I think this could be one of those really interesting things if someone gets hurt or there's a need. And I don't know. What do you think? Like, where would he slot in on this current roster? What do you think?
I mean, he could come in off the bench. I think if maybe there's an injury, he'd be able to slot in at anywhere in the infield. I wouldn't put him in the outfield. Just based on the fact that seemed to have been what really screwed him up when he was in the majors the first go around, was when they were bouncing him around between the infield and the outfield, and the infield and the outfield, and he was playing left field and center field, and he was all over the place. Let the kid play in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let
him finally just be himself. And I think that's the biggest thing. He's got continuity finally down at AAA.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And he turns 30, which is hard to believe, later this month. So he's been in the organization. He was drafted by the Phillies in 2015. So he's been in the organization for darn near 10 years. But this is the last year of his contract that he signed. This is his last shot. I'm kind of glad he brought his name up, because right now he's kind of there's basically a block with him. You signed Whit Merrifield. He's maybe gonna start coming back. The guy's a gamer. We know his history. I don't think that what we're seeing now from him is what we're gonna get. I think he's gonna equalize basically. I don't think he'll be like what he was, but right. I think he'll be a good complementary piece for us. But Edmundo Sosa has been fantastic. Stott's been slow, but obviously replacing Stott with Kingery is not an option.
No.
You stick with Stott, he's going to come around. You really don't have a pathway to shortstop, barring, knock on wood, an injury to Turner.
I mean, well, let me say this then. All right, you know what? Screw it. Screw the infield thing. Trade Nick. Do what we should have done during the offseason. Get a half a bag of used practice balls for him. Whatever you can get for Nick Castellanos. Salary relief even. And then run a platoon in right field of Kingery, and Merrifield can play a little bit of outfield.
Merrifield. You have a bunch of players that can play in the outfield right now. So Brandon Marsh has typically played left this year, but he can play center. And to me, if you can play left or center, you can probably play right. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different, playing in the different corners. But it's essentially,
But with somebody that's as athletic as he is, and I think the same could be said for Rojas. He could play all over the place. Although if Rojas is out there, he's going to be in center. So there's really nothing to say about that. Merrifield can play right. You do have other people that can still play in the outfield, which you probably don't want there defensively, but Bryce is still a right fielder. Schwarber obviously can go out there. Pache's on the roster. Um, you have options. Uh, so I mean, why not? I mean, no, it's a good idea. The only and conversely, I think theoretically you could throw Kingery in on a deal. Not obviously not with Nick. If you're gonna throw Nick, put him in a trade discussion. Obviously, Kingery's the guy you hold on to. But if Nick starts coming back around and there's no spot for Kingery, maybe that's where you can use him for something,
Right.
some kind of draft money or you know, those things that the Phillies typically do to find these guys when they're super young, which they did with one Ranger Suarez, and we'll get into that about their starting pitching because my goodness. Um, so I don't know. I don't maybe that's what ends up happening because I don't think he ends up in the minors just kind of doing what he's doing all year for the Phillies without
Right.
them making a move with either A, like you said, bringing him up or B, moving him out to another organization.
Right. And let him get a shot, because I'm sure there's teams out there that could use him. And honestly, the kid has done nothing wrong in the organization. He just didn't pan out the way that things that hoped. And it's not like he wasn't trying. It's not like he didn't give an honest effort. It's not like he wasn't busting his ass to get better. He couldn't. And it
No.
seems like he might finally have found whatever it was that was missing. He may have finally found it. So let him have a shot, man. Get the
Yeah.
kid, put him somewhere, put him in some kind of situation to succeed.
Right.
Is
And
it'd be one thing if he was a player that was out there like sour grapes all the time. And, oh man, it's just the coaching staff, or it's this, or it's that. He put his head down and he played.
yeah. Yeah. And it kind of unfortunately, he was drafted during a transitory time for the Phillies. They had just come off of their insane run. A lot of those guys were either retiring, being traded, whatever. And then he comes along in the same time frame as Reese Hoskins and Nola and these other guys. And it's like, things panned out for Nola, things panned out for Hoskins, obviously. Things didn't really pan out for Scott. And hopefully maybe this is it, and maybe 30 is a magical year for him. Who knows? But no, let's go pitching. Before we get into the starting pitching, not a whole lot of highlights on the bullpen. Most everyone's been kind of slow, but still some good work. Jeff Hoffman, man, what a pickup that was last year. He's continuing to just throw. He's been awesome. Matt Strom, same way. Do love his work, and I don't know. He's just fun to watch. He's the crazy Nick Cage on the mound. Otherwise, what bullpen? I mean, you've had some. Sir Anthony's been bad.
Yeah.
Alvarado's had a slow start. I know he'll come around. Gregory Soto, I don't have much nice to say about him.
No.
It just, you don't really have that, everyone kind of going into the season was like, oh, bullpen's like the strong point. You guys have, and we do. We've got some quality pitchers there, but man, half of them just haven't really performed. So
Right.
I don't know. You got any thoughts on state of the bullpen right now?
Bullpen to me is where we can use the most help. And if you're gonna swing a deal, I don't think you're going for a position player right now. I think you're going for, I mean, unless you can, if you can bring in a bona fide stud, then yeah, obviously you're gonna go for that. But I think right now, bullpen is the weak spot on the team. And saying the weak spot on the team, I mean, that's like trying to pick the worst player in the Hall of Fame at this point.
Right.
We're the team has really come together, offensively and starting pitching wise, defensively even. There's been a couple miscues. Trey has had a couple uncharacteristic errors, and I say uncharacteristic. I know his fielding percentage hasn't always been the best, and he hasn't been like the greatest fielder like all the time. But even plays that he would normally make, there's been a couple errors here and there, but by and large, We're solid defensively, we're solid offensively, and we're solid with our starting pitching. So really, the only thing I could say about the bullpen is it's got to get better, right?
Yeah, it's got to. Really, the only other bright spot, and I forgot to mention him, I just kind of blipped. There was Marte has been just a stud this year, which is crazy because he was very nerve wracking last year. Had bright spots, then dropped back to the minors because he wasn't, and then it just whatever. But starting pitching has been phenomenal. You've just had just insane. Look, Wheeler and Nola are going to be those. They're going to be themselves. They're going to be awesome. But then you have like Rangers just turn into Cy Young all of a sudden. I mean, he's good before, great in the playoffs, but all of a sudden he's just right now he's on a 25 inning scoreless streak. He's been fantastic, and then $2 million man Spencer Turnbull. Who would have thought? He's
Right.
been pitching insane. And really, your weak spots, Christopher Sanchez. I mean, he kind of got hit around the night, but still not. I mean, before tonight, not terrible. He's doesn't quite have the command. But guess what? Taiwan Walker is right around the corner. Come right back. So you can deploy the 6-man. If you want to go 5-man, you kind of know the weak man out right now. Sanchez could drop back to the bullpen if they need him, because right now that might not be, a bad idea for him.
Yeah,
But
might not be the worst idea. So they're not in a bad position as far as the starting rotation goes. Like you said, Taiwan Walker comes back, put him in. He doesn't perform, then you start looking at other situations. But shit, man. I know any team in the majors would love to have Wheels and Nola and Ranger Danger.
yeah,
Or Danger Ranger, however you want to say it.
right.
So
It's been awesome, man. I don't know. I'm excited. What a great start to the season.
yeah.
And I've been kind of tracking it out of curiosity. And funny enough, the only team since 1980 that has basically either made the playoffs, made the World Series, or at least were interesting, that had a better record through the first 23 games was the 1993 Phillies, which just made me think of how magical that was.
Dude, yeah. That was a ridiculous season. Never forget that. Never forget crying in my living room when Mitchie Poo let up that home run to Joe Carter.
Man.
So pissed.
Yeah. That one hurts. All right. So we did have some other interesting things come out, though. We had a good trailer come out.
Yeah. We've had a couple actually. So I want to mention this one first because I don't have much to say about it other than the one thing that we talked about. It was the trailer for the Knuckles TV show.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. All right, but yeah, they had the return of ESPN 8 The Ocho, which, if you're too young to know, that was the station that broadcast the dodgeball tournament in dodgeball.
It's a great reference, and you know what? Here's the funny thing. I think that is such a nice, purposeful reference because they are catering to their audience on that one, 100%.
Oh yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah, because the kids won't know; they'll just think it's funny, and we know.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, dude. So Deadpool and Wolverine second trailer comes out. Holy shit! So, as someone who has been deeply invested in the comic books for years and years and years, and deeply invested in the character for years and the characters for years and years and years, there was so much in this trailer that some of it I had to watch like hey, things you missed in the trailer video on YouTube because I was just so engrossed in it, and I'm like, wait, and I kept on seeing stuff. I'm like, wait, was that was that this, and so, like, for instance, there were mutants that made cameos in this trailer. Lady Deathstrike was in it, if you remember her from X-Men 2.
Yeah.
or
Oh, that's
X2.
right.
Okay. Lady Deathstrike was in it in the scene where they're showing Ant-Man's helmet opening up and there's all the people standing around it.
And she's in there, isn't she?
She's in there. So
Ooh.
she's in there.
Huh.
Pyro from the first couple movies was in it. That whole scene takes place. Have you watched Loki at all?
The television show?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
So you're going to want to watch Loki before you go see this movie because a lot of this storyline, there's two things you really want to be familiar with going into this movie. Number one is Loki. You need to watch both seasons of Loki. Number two, there was a story arc. Trying to think when it happened. I want to say like 2000, between like 2008 and 2011. At some point, this happened, and it was called Old Man Logan. Now there was a whole comic book series called Old Man Logan, but it was this story arc in the actual original Wolverine line that they took a lot of this imagery from. And basically, the storyline is that, you know, how in comic books and comic book movies and everything, the villains are out for themselves. They're always like, it's like, oh, Spider-Man's fighting Doc Ock today. Oh, Spider-Man's fighting Mysterio today. And every once in a while, they'll team up and it'll be like the Sinister Six or whatever. This was a team up by every villain all at once.
Hmm.
They coordinated their attack. And what they did was they coordinated their attacks and they planned for each team or each whatever. Here's how they got the X-Men. And I don't know if they'll change this. They might very well change this for the movie. But the fact that he was there, that Scott Lang was there, like his body and everything. In the comic book, it's Hank Pym, who is Ant-Man / Giant Man. And his body in giant form is laying across a part of the United States with a giant skull, and it's called Pym Falls.
Mm.
All right. Now, so that's what it looks like it's leading towards. And with this Wolverine having failed his universe, it leads me to believe this is Old Man Logan. Or at least that time period or that universe.
Yeah, the trailer seemed to hit upon more of the that it did with the Logan.
Right.
It seemed to hit
So
that.
what happens is Mysterio goes to the X Mansion and he makes Wolverine, Logan, think that all of the X-Men are actually villains attacking the mansion. And he's worried that they're going to kill the students and his teammates. And he's the only one there. He doesn't see any of his teammates. He doesn't smell them. He doesn't sense them anywhere. So he starts killing them. He kills every single one of them, with the last one being Bullseye. And he says in the comic book, he fought Bullseye for 90 minutes and they just kept taking chunks out of each other for 90 minutes before he finally put him down. As he puts him down, he hears Jubilee's voice say, "Wolverine, why would you do this to us?" And Mysterio snaps his fingers. The illusion is gone. And he's got Jubilee on his claws.
Mm.
And he looks around and he sees all of the students and all of his teammates that he was trying to protect. He then goes into a major breakdown, obviously, sheathes his claws for the last time, and takes a vow of pacifism and says that he'll never pop his claws again. And that's why when he's at the bar and Deadpool comes to get him and he tries to pop his claws, They don't come all the way out at first
Mm,
because he hasn't used them.
I think you're likely very spot on with that because that makes a lot of sense. And the trailer did kind of allude to that too. Like, there is a line in there where it's like you failed your universe.
Right.
Um, that I mean, that probably is enough alone to kind of lend exactly what you just said, credence to exactly what you just said. I did kind of cheat a little bit and see. I was kind of curious. I looked at it was either an IMDb or Wikipedia. I was curious to see what other characters were going to be, in the movie. Negasonic Teenage Warhead seems to be back in the fold. I imagine Colossus is back in the fold.
So Yukio,
Yukio's back in the fold. I'm out of loss for names here.
Yukio, what was the dude's name?
Dorpinder's back in the
Yep.
fold. But it did look like there's at least some continuity there with that. Who's the one X-Force guy?
I know who you're talking about, and I can't
Peter.
remember.
Peter.
Peter. Yes,
Yeah.
Peter's back. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I was losing my thoughts on the names there. I had them all like in my head, and I was like, oh gosh, I just had a brain slip. But no, so it's like it seems like there's a good core that's still there, and obviously you do have the recurring characters too.
Vanessa's back.
Vanessa's back, yeah. And I'm curious how they'll do that again because obviously first movie leading into the second movie not so well. So
yeah. So here's the other thing. There is the villain in it has been confirmed to be Cassandra Nova. Now, do you know anything about Cassandra Nova?
I don't, only by name. I don't know.
So Cassandra Nova is actually Professor Xavier's evil twin sister that he absorbed in the womb. And then somehow she ended up manifesting in the physical realm. So I'm assuming that since we're dealing with the multiverse, this is a version of her that came from like a reality where she was the one who was born and Professor X wasn't.
Oh, that okay, yeah. Okay.
So now there's some other people. So Shatterstar is in it. He was in X-Force. Azazel from X-Men First Class was seen in that same scene where you see what's her name? Lady Deathstrike, who's Yuriko.
Mm-hmm.
You see her. I know that Elektra's going to be in it, Jennifer Garner. So maybe we see a Ben Affleck Daredevil. That could
And
happen.
I guess the really interesting thing is, and can I go back to your point of the whole you failed your universe thing and bringing that whole concept back in, and they've obviously already have done the whole multiverse thing, through the MCU, for the last several years anyway, at least bits and pieces, right? I mean, that's kind of how we're sitting now. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword. To me, you can get away with whatever you want,
Yeah.
which is good. But cinematically, I know it's going to be a good movie, but cinematically, how do you tell a good story without also not kind of screwing up comic lines? You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
it just seems like it's like how do you cater to your audience that's going to be your hey, I only watch WrestleMania. I don't watch wrestling, all year long, but I only watch that. How do you cater to those folks?
what it's going to do is it's definitely a multiverse, obviously. This is actually going to set up the next set of Marvel movies. And I say that because of the way it ties into um, Loki, or the way Loki ties into it, rather. And the fact that we've seen incursions start to happen. And incursions is going to be a word that you're going to want to remember because incursions is what starts the secret war. Incursions is what causes Battle World, which is where multiple incursions happen, multiple realities combine, kind of, and then there's a battle to see who is going to be the reality that comes out on top, and that's the reality that stays. So this is a good way for them to kind of trim some of the fat, get rid of some characters that they don't want, bring in other characters that they do want, kind of skip the whole origin for certain characters and be able to tell other stories within the multiverse.
It's a great transitory movie,
Right.
or going to be a great transitory. I should say.
Right.
I
Thor
was
is even in this one. Like Chris Hemsworth Thor is it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, this is people were sleeping on this movie. They're like, oh, it's just another Deadpool movie. No, dude, this movie is actually as fucked up and stupid as it is. This is gonna be, and it's really gonna fuck up the kids because the kids aren't gonna see it because you've seen how many F words are in just the one trailer that we've seen so far.
Right.
So this is really gonna fuck with the kids' heads unless they do like they did and release a PG-13 version of it, like they did with Deadpool 2, with Once Upon a Deadpool, which fantastic. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a favor and watch it because the shit with Fred Savage is wondrous. If you're a fan of The Princess Bride, it's fantastic. Have you seen it yet?
No. I mean, I said Deadpool 2, but I've not seen
Oh,
Cut
dude.
Down. No.
You've got to see look, it is cut down quite a bit. And there are some things that you're going to be like, wow, that's PG-13, but you have to watch it if for no other reason, just the Fred Savage stuff. Now, here's something that a lot of the other Marvel movies have done in their trailers and stuff that I think maybe might happen in Deadpool and Wolverine. That if it does happen, it's going to be so great just from a meta standpoint. So here's the deal. There's a thing called the Deadpool Core, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a whole bunch of different Deadpools from all different realities, right? There's Headpool, which is the decapitated zombie head of Deadpool. There's Dogpool, who you've seen in the trailer. He's a dog. That's Deadpool. There's Deadpool the Kid. That is a cowboy version of Deadpool. There's Kid Deadpool, who is a kid version of Deadpool. And there's Lady Deadpool. Now, there have been rumors that Lady Deadpool is going to be in this movie. And Lady Deadpool will be played by none other than Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively.
Oh.
Now, when they're in the bar, the scene with Logan and Deadpool in the bar, and he says, "Beat it, lady." What do you think? Do you think they maybe did some CGI trickery there to cover up that that's actually?
I mean, that's possible. That's possible.
That would make my day. I mean, look, if the other rumor is true and Taylor Swift shows up as Dazzler, that would be fantastic. But this is my most hoped for, like, rumored thing for this movie. Besides the whole rumored Cable appearance.
Yeah. He's got to be back, right? I mean,
you would think.
I mean,
and I kind of want to
big
see
role in Deadpool 2. So I mean,
yeah, you would think he would be in it. What I really want to see though too, is I want to see a scene with Chris Evans as Human Torch meeting Chris Evans as Captain America.
Yeah,
because that would be awesome.
Yeah, he's not. Is he supposed to be in this at all though?
I haven't heard anything about it, but what, dude? How is that not the best cameo of all time?
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. And if this is going to be like a transitory whatever disaster type, basically,
yeah,
no, it's gonna be fun. Trailer looked great. Really glad they were able to kind of put this together because you do have. So look, let's not kid ourselves here. Hugh Jackman's been playing Wolverine for a long time, and I don't think we all kind of thought that this was never going to be a possibility because he's not really a spring chicken anymore. So
No.
we thought this was not gonna, be one of those, things that ever kind of grace the screens, and we're a couple months away now. So
Yeah. So hopefully the giant asteroid doesn't hit before then, because I really need to see this movie. Hopefully it lives up to all of our expectations. I can't see a world where this doesn't. The only way that it wouldn't live up to our expectations is like if 5 minutes into the movie, Ryan Reynolds' normal Deadpool gets killed and the one with the mouth sewn shut comes back, and that's the Deadpool for the rest of the movie. Like, but honestly, if they did that, that'd be the biggest middle finger ever to the fans, and I'm kind of here for it.
yeah, I can't see that happening.
But yeah, no, there's no way that happens.
There's yeah, nope, nope.
So
No, they want to make money on this one.
yeah, they do. But you know what would be cool too is if Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth makes a return. That would be really cool.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
cool with that. But dude, if you think about it, there's so many different cameos they could put in this. They could have what was that dude's name? The guy that was supposed no, Channing Tatum shows up as Gambit. There's all these castings that were rumored, like Tony Stark Tony Stark as Tom Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is Tony Stark. Like there's all these different castings that were rumored throughout the years that could pop up in this movie, and it wouldn't be out of place, and it wouldn't have to lead to another movie. It
Right,
could,
just be a
based
one-off.
on like if it was real, like so well received, but it could also just be like a one-off, like John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic in Doctor Strange.
Right.
Because we know that now that Pedro Pascal has been cast as Reed Richards, so John Krasinski won't be replaying that role anymore. Which I thought he was great in it. I thought they should have kept him, but fuck do I know?
But no, before we close up shop, you got anything else?
Fuck the Mets and fuck the Braves and fuck the Cowboys.